hallucinating. We had this Arabic music just playing constantly on a loop, and I was hearing like my name in it and all sorts. Like it was talking to me. I was just trying my hardest not to sit down and give up. I think at that time an Apache came over and just started putting some suppressing fire down. Like 20 years old, just trying to lug this dead body on my shoulder. And
well, joining me today is former SAS soldier, two-time Everest summiter, race car driver, TV star, surfer, and author of the book titled Soldier. His intro reads a little bit like a made-up Tinder bio. Jay Morton, thanks for coming, mate.
I wish it was. Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. We'll get into your book and sort of talk our way through it shortly, because obviously, there's some quite important bits through there that we want to dissect. The first thing I want to dissect is the way you start your day every day. What are you doing?
You mean the bin, right?
Yeah. The bin, yeah. What are you doing? What are you thinking?
This gets the most curiosity ever, the bin thing.
Yeah, you sick of answering this question yet? Or?
No. I think more people need to bin, to be honest.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Like, I've always been into like cold water and stress and keeping healthy and physical fitness and all that stuff that comes under that kind of bracket. And yeah, do you know what? Like when I've always got into cold water, you always get out feeling like so much better. So yeah, I just thought, yeah, sod it. I'm gonna get the recycling bin. So it's the recycling bin. So it usually just has like leaves and branches and stuff like that in it. Empty that out, clean it, and then fill it with water. So every morning, the alarm goes off, and first thing I do is jump in that bin.
Wow. How do you? Why? So what is there some sort of thinking behind it, or some sort of like science behind it?
Yeah, like, cold water has so many benefits, like scientific benefits. But for me, it's more just being able to like get out of bed. So you get out of your warm bed, and the first thing you do is expose yourself to cold water or stress or whatever you want to call it. It's like I know that. So the days that I don't bin, I find that they're just not as productive as the days that I do bin.
Really?
Yeah, I kind of, the main thing that I've learned about it is if I can make the choice to get into that bin in the morning, then every other decision after that is easy. Because that was almost the hardest decision to make that day. Looking back to my military career, and you do similar things, right? Like when you're on the way, like in a helicopter on the way to do a job on target. And you might do similar things to meditation, but at the time you don't know that it's meditation because no one's coined it that. But you're running stuff in your head. You're thinking about the job. If you're first off the helicopter, you're thinking about, what position you go in to give some sort of all-round defense. And then you're thinking of, right, which way's the target? Because it's all nighttime, right? You can't see where you're going. It's all NVGs.
Which is night vision goggles.
Night vision goggles, yeah. And then just like what you're going to do on target. So you've had the brief, that you're ladder man or your first man in or whatever. So you're just like running through that in your brain. And then, once you're happy with that, you switch off, maybe put some music on, iPod or something like that, listen to some music. And then.
What would you listen to when you
I got caught listening to Queen once.
Really?
Yeah. Nah, like anything. It's just because some of the flights might be anything from an hour and a half to, like, we had some 4-hour flights sometimes.
Your first overseas tour in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
How big of an opportunity was that for you in the scheme of things and the way that your life has panned out now?
Yeah, I think even joining the paras and joining the military, like that shaped my future pretty much. All this was out of my hands, right? It was forced. I decided to join the military. But then, Afghanistan kicked off and we were the first troops into Afghanistan in 2006. And that actually turned into like a massive, 6 months of constant fighting. And I was like 20 years old. So it's...
Grew up quick?
Yeah. So for like a 20-year-old, just being, in part of like, I wouldn't even call it a team, I call it a family. We had... Platoon Sergeant Dan Jarvie, who was, a massive figure and, one of the greatest people that I've ever served under. And we just became really tight. And I don't know, you learn a lot about life and yourself and other people when bullets are flying around. So yeah, like I always look back on that 2006 tour, and I say in the book it's probably one of the, it's hard to say best tours that I've done, because that's probably the wrong word for it, but in terms of it's probably the one that stands out for me as being one of the greatest. Again, greatest is probably not the right word, just because.
But when you're talking about you and your development,
Yeah.
it's definitely the best tour.
Of course, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then that kind of, from being there, kind of led on to you then going for selection in the SAS, and then the SAS, you get thrown into the mountain section. Is that the right term? The mountain section?
Yeah, mountain troop.
Troop.
But again, that was like another thing that was completely out of my hands. And at the time was like I felt like it was a bad decision, right? Like I didn't want to go to mountain troop. But just by how everything works out when you turn up at the squadron, I ended up in mountain troop, and again, like never skied, never climbed, never done, I'm a kid from Preston. Grew up drinking cider on the streets kind of thing. And like that kind of developed a passion for skiing, for climbing. That led me to go to Germany to train to be a mountain guide. That then led to the high altitude expeditions, which led to, Summit Everest twice, helping some friends set up a clothing business. And it's all has a knock-on effect, right? All these, whether it feels like a bad choice at that time, it all has a knock-on effect further down the line.
Bryan Budd, he's someone that you talk about as a leader that you look up to more than most, I would say. Can you tell me about him and what made him such a good leader, and some examples of what you witnessed, and who he was as well for people listening? Yeah,
sure. I mean, a bit of context on Bryan. Like Bryan was killed. So Bryan was a para as well. Served in the Pathfinder platoon and 3 para, and he came to us quite late on when we were on the 2006 tour, or he came to 3 para quite late on because he came from PF.
What's PF?
So Pathfinder platoon.
Right. Okay.
So it's Brigade Recce platoon. So yeah, Bryan was killed on the 20th of August 2006 in Sangin. So Bryan was a section commander in my platoon, so 1 platoon. But yeah, just an awesome role model as a person, an absolute ultimate professional. I don't think I've ever met anyone as professional as him. Just inspiring, right, to be around, and for like a young kind of 20-year-old kid who'd not really had many male role models growing up. He was like the perfect kind of male role model. And it was, I remember like, because we were based in Sangin quite a lot, which was, if in Afghanistan, that was like the worst place to be ever, pretty much. A lot of death, a lot of people got killed there. Not so much when we were there, but I think afterwards it was kind of the cursed place. But we spent the majority of that 6 months in Sangin, and he was just like I was his 2IC for a little bit, and I remember coming under contact one day. So obviously he was like right at the front, and he'd spotted some guys just like with weapons. I think 3 guys like walking across an open ground. We were quite fortunate, so he'd like sprung an attack on him. And I remember like speaking to him, going like, "Bryan, what's going on? What's going on?" And like his voice was the same in contact as it was out. He could have been down the pub telling a story, or he could have been like, taking his last few steps on like an assault through a doorway kind of thing. And his voice was just like mellow, came back with clear crystal words. And I was just like, right, okay. So yeah, like I just saw that and just went, that's what I want to be like. And I remember kind of after he died, that was a pretty hellish day, but
you were there, weren't you?
Yeah, like I was in another section this day, and we'd just gone out so literally just like across the road from like it's called Sangin DC District Centre. 200 meters across the road, just blowing some holes in walls just to be able to get a clear line of sight into this area where we were receiving quite a lot of like wombat fire, so a big wombat shell. They were just firing it every night just before it went dark from this same area. So it was just to get a line of sight. And Bryan's section had gone, like they were clearing a little bit into the, like a little bit further away from the district centre and in some kind of like bushy and overgrown areas. And yeah, his section came under fire from a Taliban area whilst they were going through some cornfields, and the cornfields were kind of, you know, like way above your head kind of thing. You can't see left or right. One of the guys, a good friend of mine, he got shot, took the end of his nose off and took a chunk of his shoulder off. Another guy got shot, I think just through his arm. I might get some of the details wrong about this, but it was quite a long time ago, 15, 14 years. Yeah, he got shot through his arm. I think 2 or 3 of them got shot. Bryan's gone forward and just kind of dealt with the threat. 3 Taliban guys. He took fire like going forward, and yeah, like when I found him, he had like I might get this wrong, but he had like a couple of bullet wounds on him. And then yeah, like obviously the rest of his section's pulled back, and now they're getting on the radio to say that, you know, they've taken fire from this area. I think at that time an Apache came over and just started putting some suppressing fire down. So the Apaches were like awesome out in Afghanistan, because literally as soon as they came out, everyone, all the enemy just kind of went to ground and hid, because the accuracy of their fire was so good. And then yeah, we kind of like our section was tasked to go through this cornfield and kind of retrace the steps that his section did. So yeah, we put some fire down and then pushed forward and like kind of lined up on this cornfield, and all just went into this cornfield, and we're like pushing through this cornfield, literally didn't know left or right who was. You just like pushing through all this dust and corn. And like I popped out at the other end. I got through it quite quick. I popped out at the other end, and just there was no one around me. I had to just like look forward and could just spotted Bry. He was like in like a little like ditch, like a water ditch. Obviously not moving, dead. And then like there was like some dead dudes around him. So yeah, I just went up to him and like grabbed him, and obviously by that time like he was obviously completely dead. So just started trying to do first aid on him, which you always do. But like looking back retrospectively, it's like he's gone. And then yeah, like luckily another one of the lads, Corky, just poked his head through, and I shouted him over. He came over. And yeah, luckily we didn't receive any incoming, because we would have been pretty fucked, because we were just in the open. And then it was just me and Corky, and I think everyone got stuck in this cornfield. And then yeah, just like 20 years old, just trying to lug this dead body on my shoulder, and realised how heavy it was. And there was another platoon that was pushing through just to give us support. Got it on this big jock lad's shoulder and extracted with him.
Wow.
You know, the early days of Afghanistan, they're like really long drawn out contacts. So we might have gone out to clear an area during the day, and we might not come back into like kind of, you know, afternoon time. We might have been out sat in contact for like 4 to 6 hours, mortar fire. Like it was like pretty full on. And then as you go into the special forces stuff, it's more of you go out and that contact might last 5 seconds and then it's done. And then you extract, come back.
There was an incident on Everest. Everest was a bit of a breeze for you the first time you went up there. The second time you went up there, there was a bit of an issue that led to you having to do a little bit of trekking by yourself at night. Or can you tell me about the situation and how you got through it?
Yeah, sure. So this was last year. So this was the second attempt, and it's quite a tricky time, because the weather made like, because of the weather, you basically get a weather window to summit. So you go up, do your acclimatization, come down, chill at base camp, and then you get a weather window. And you generally, you always get one weather window, sometimes get 2, and rarely get 3. So you've got to almost like pick when you want your team to go up.
Right.
And this weather window, with all acclimatized, all sat at base camp, like a good team of like, you know, some experience in the group. And this weather window just appeared out of nowhere. but we didn't have the resources high up really to climb. But I had a group of the lads and they were just like, Jay, we need to get up there. So I was like, right, get it. Let's just go and chance it, and I'll take the strongest guys and we'll see how we get on. So we set off, went through the Khumbu Icefall, and because we made the decision so late in the day, you generally, on your summit push, you'll leave base camp to get to Camp 2. You climb all the way through 1 to 2. You leave around 3, 4 in the morning. You climb through, because the Khumbu's the most dangerous part, or one of it. So you want to climb through whilst the sun's not hitting it, because as soon as the sun hits, all those massive ice blocks start moving. So like if you can get through whilst it's still cold, everything's still frozen. And then you get to Camp 2 around, 4 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever. So we decided, right, we made the decision late. We're going to climb all the way through, get to Camp 2 like super late, like 10 o'clock at night, and then leave Camp 2 the next day to do 3 all the way up to the summit. So we'd set off maybe about 3 in the afternoon, and we got to the top of the Khumbu, and one of the climbers started coughing up some blood, which is like classic, something wrong with his lungs, whatever it is. So I kind of said to the rest of the lads, right, you guys crack on. There's some good experience in you. Get to Camp 2, rest. We'll stay on comms with the radio, and I'll stay with Geth. And the plan was that we get to Camp 1, and everyone bypasses Camp 1. So you've got all these empty tents that are just sat there for kind of emergency and storage or whatever. So I was like, right, we'll get to Camp 1, get Geth in there, get him warm, get one of the Sherpas to come down from 2, like warm water, like food, all that stuff, spend the night. Because at least that way, right, if there was a Sherpa there, I could crack on to Camp 2, climb with the lads, the Sherpa could take him back down to base camp. And Geth's quite experienced, the lad who was coughing up blood. So he kind of knew that he didn't need to go down immediately, but this could be a developing problem. So it was kind of getting dark by the time we got to this tent in Camp 1, because, we kept having to stop. Like obviously Geth's struggling with his breathing because he's coughing this blood up. And we get into the tent, luckily found a sleeping bag, got Geth in it, got him warm, and I kind of put all the clothes on that I could find. And the tent's the same temperature as outside, but it doesn't get any warmer. So as the sun went down around Camp 1, it gets to around like -20, -25. And yeah, I was body popping. I was freezing. Just could not generate enough body temperature. And, I'd eaten all my food, drank all my water, because we were just ploughing straight through to Camp 2. And there was fresh snowfall, which didn't help, because all the tracks going up to Camp 2 were just covered in fresh snow. So you sank in when you walked up them. So like that delayed the Sherpa getting down. So by the time our Sherpas got down, it's like 11, 12 at night. It's freezing outside and I'm body popping. And that draws the energy out of you, right?
What's body popping?
Sorry, just like freezing.
Right.
It's like it's a military term. So shivering, uncontrollable shivering.
Yeah.
So early stages of hypothermia. So yeah, like Sherpa comes in. I was like, right, I just need to go now. But obviously that drains all your energy. And at that altitude, you can't go fast enough to generate enough body temperature, because you've not got the energy or the oxygen to do it. So I'm like one step in front of the other. I've got everything, all my clothing on, and like I'm still shivering whilst I'm walking, which is I can consider myself like a strong character, like strong mentally, physically, understand my limits, but like at altitude that it can change quite rapidly depending on the situation, and this was a bad situation. So yeah, like as I was just taking one step in front of the other, and then yeah, like it gets steeper just towards the end up to Camp 2, and I was just in my head, I just had like, I was looking at it from like quite a comical point of view, right? And I was just like, I can just imagine the lads waking up the next day and just like hearing that there's a body found just below Camp 2 and just going down, and then they come down and it's me.
It's not like a funny.
Kind of is.
Yeah, you got some dark humour that comes out of the military, boys, isn't there?
I could just imagine. Well, I'd like to think they'd be gutted, but who knows?
But you ended up pushing through, though, didn't you?
Yeah, like I was fine.
Well, obviously,
and then,
you're here.
Yeah, I was fine, and then I got. I just remember looking back on that, right, and I genuinely don't think I've been that fucked in my life.
Really?
Yeah, like concerned whilst I was walking, just 'cause I couldn't generate temperature, and that like as hypothermia kicks in, you just fatigue more, and then the old like, you know, you hear these stories. It's like guys just sit down and then that's them, and that's like what stage I was at, right? So it's not really that funny because I was just trying my hardest not to sit down and give up, essentially.
You in the book as well, you talk about resilience, and the more books I read, especially from guys that have been in the SAS, that you all talk about how resilience isn't really something you're born with; it's something that you learn, and it's something that you're consciously applying, rather than going, just trudging on through because you're naturally resilient. How do you consciously apply resilience, and how do you learn it? And can you sort of, I don't know, give me some stories about how you've had to consciously apply resilience in the past?
Yeah, I think that's like one of the biggest takeaways from, I think, any military person's life that is so like prevalent right now in the world is resilience. Because like you were saying then, like none of us in the military were ever born with resilience. We just chose a career path that gave us resilience, and it was almost out of not having choice, right? It's like when you join the military because you want to do it, and you go on all these like grim exercises where you don't get any sleep and you're working at night and you're out in the pissing rain or whatever, snow, whatever horrendous weather conditions there are, on eating rations, and you build up humor around that. And then you go overseas, deploy, go on operations, and you're constantly doing things that essentially just making you stronger to everything else, which is what resilience is. So we have it as a byproduct, but like, if you think of like life right now, like we all just live in these houses, we all just live in, these safe boxes. Like you don't walk out in the street and see, I mean, sometimes you do, see someone getting killed or something like that. Depends where you are. But it's not something we're exposed to every day. Even bad weather, you leave your house, you get on the tube, you got an umbrella, you got warm clothes. It's like we never get exposed to stuff to make us resilient, but everyone wants to be resilient. It's like the main question, Jay, how can I be more resilient? But it's no like secret formula to it. It is constant exposure to difficult or stressful things. So like people say like, why'd you get in the bin? I'm like, because it makes me more resilient, and that has a knock-on effect to how my day looks. Like if I can make that decision to get in the bin in the morning, then I can make decisions way easier throughout the day. And if I get caught out in a shower, it's like, whatever. Or if it's cold, I'm like, whatever. So like, if you want to be more resilient, it's just about taking a choice to choose the difficult over the easy. And that might just be, like I'm probably a little bit different to most, but it could just be like walking instead of getting the tube when it's raining. Or it could just be, cold showers, brilliant. Could just be, even like, I don't know, quitting alcohol. If like that's a difficult thing for you to do. If you quit alcohol for a month, it's like...
Oh, we're going to wrap things up now. It's you've gone too far, mate. You're preaching now. You're preaching.
But as in, all right, chocolate or whatever it is, whatever you see as a difficult task, right? Because I've tried, I've tried quitting alcohol. I don't drink much, but like, it's hard, right? When you go out with your mates and they're like, mate, do you want a beer? And you're like, I'm not drinking.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? It's just one, mate. But like, then you quit, right? And you have that one beer. But like, if you said no and, oh mate, no, I'm just having a month off it. Like that's building resilience. So it's those choices that we make throughout the day that you can apply to to your life that'll make you more resilient. And then when the world's gone to shit, right? When
happens,
when we're all on lockdown and like whatever's going on in whatever political realm of the world, it's like that stuff just floats off your shoulder like duck off water off a duck's back.
Yeah, or duck off a water's back.
Duck off a water's back, mate.
But
that's chapter 7.
Yeah. Finally, like in the book, you talk about. I mean, I don't know how helpful this is going to be to anyone that listens to this, but I found it really, really interesting. You talk about, because on selection and on who dares wins, SAS who dares wins, you have to go through interrogation, and you give your top 10 tips for going through interrogation, which is pretty awesome. Like most people aren't ever going to have to be interrogated, but I'm just going to rattle through.
You never know.
You never know. You never know. So I'm just going to rattle through them, and I just want you to sort of explain or give me a kind of explanation behind each one. It doesn't need to be too long, but just so number 1, under the Geneva Convention, you only have to give 4 bits of information. So you've been interrogated, you're captured, you've gone on your overseas holiday, you've been captured.
Croatia.
In Croatia.
Nothing wrong with Croatia, by the way.
Yeah, you're in Hvar or something, somewhere nice, and you've suddenly been detained, and they're interrogating you because they think you're a spy or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the Geneva Convention and the 4 bits of information.
Yeah, so it's basically just, so obviously like it's quite old school, but like that was like originally what the only thing that you could give was the 4, name, rank, number. So, army number, whatever that is, name, like Jay Morton or whatever. The rank of you and
date of birth,
yeah. So you just say, 9th of the 1st.
And you just
1995.
Then number 2, beware of kindness and gentle questioning.
Yeah, that's the fucker on interrogation.
Is it?
Yeah, because like if someone's screaming and shouting in your face, you know where you stand. You've got an aggressive person who's being aggressive to you. Whereas like if someone's coming across like, because this is part of interrogation, you get all aspects of after you've been, like when we do it on selection, we obviously go on the run for a week, covering 30 kilometers every night with minimal kind of navigation kit, and it's like pissing down with rain. It's Wales or wherever you're doing it. Yeah, so if someone's shouting at you, you know where you stand, right? It's an aggressive person. You can curl up into a ball and go all, go fawn and just not be reactive, and people generally aren't going to get information from you if they're doing that. Whereas they're like, oh mate, how's it going? Like, here's a hot cup of tea. Like, those shoes look a bit tight. Do you want another set? Do you want to dry your feet off? Like, you're instantly going to tell that person way more information than someone who's screaming and shouting hot tea in your face.
Number 3, resist letting the interrogators build rapport with you.
Yeah. Well, that's like, you're probably in that, you're in that country for a reason. Like, you don't, the last thing that they want to do is, get all that information from you. So it's about building a rapport, but at the same time, just not, you don't want to feel like you've built a rapport with that person, but that person wants to feel like they've built a rapport with you. So you can get free stuff off them and like easy treatment, that kind of stuff. Because life can be tough under interrogation.
Number 4, beware of the 4 cops. The 4 cops. There's the good cop, bad cop, cold cop, and naive cop.
Yeah. It's just the different psychological ways that an interrogator will try and get information from you. So they'll just play each other off to try and get.
What's the naive cop?
That is someone who's naive, just believes everything that you say. But all these things can right. If you're fatigued, knackered, and you've been captured by a different country, like any of those could just throw you off, even if someone's believing everything that you say, because it'll lead you into saying more and talking more, and then before you know, you've just given away information.
Number 5, knowing in advance some of the psychological tricks.
Now you've read the book, you're all sorted. But that's why on selection, or that's the fighter pilots and all that kind of stuff, we go through that interrogation phase so that that if you're captured, you know exactly what to do, you know exactly what a good cop or someone that's being nice to you, you know how that feels, and you know how it feels internally and what information you're not or are going to give.
Number 6, don't say words like no or yes when offered a cup of tea.
Yeah. So words like yes. So that the captors can create any kind of propaganda that shows you saying whatever they deem necessary at that time.
So if they say, do you want a cup of tea? And you say yes.
They could be saying,
they could
do
cut
you agree with, captors that are being held in whatever prison? Yes.
Right. And then they could put that into their media and broadcast it out.
Which is what happens.
Right. It does happen, does it?
Has.
Yeah. I'm not going to read them all out because you can read the book. The last one, though, I think this is quite an important one and it fits in really well with everything we've talked about. Take yourself away mentally as much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, because, that's probably going to be one of the most stressful situations you'll ever be in, and it's important just to have that happy place in your head where, you can just take yourself to, whether it's... And I remember doing mine, I remember reading an SAS book years ago, and this guy built a house in his head, and I just did it, right? And before long, 10 hours had gone or whatever it was, because you've not got time. But before long, I was like, God, it actually, it works.
Built a house?
I built a house. So,
while you're being interrogated, is that the whole...
Nah, because you go back and you get put in stress positions.
Yeah.
So whilst I was in these, you're hallucinating. We had this, Arabic music just playing constantly on a loop, and at the end of it they asked us how long they thought it was, and I was like, what do you mean how long we thought it was? I was like, it was different music, and he was like, nah, it's like a 1 minute 30 loop, and I was hearing my name in it and all sorts, it was talking to me, going, Jay, I was hearing all sorts. I was hearing my parents, everything in this loop of this music, and I don't even think there are any words in it. So yeah, you just take yourself off in your head and just I built a whole house, from foundations to where I was going to buy the land to turning up and doing the deal with the estate agent and building each room and what you'd have in it, and I can take some serious time up in your head.
Well, Jay, thank you very much for joining me, mate. Really appreciated it.
Thank you.
If you like the sound of this interview, make sure you get Jay's new book. It's called Soldier. It is an amazing read. They call it a masterclass in mindset, strategy, and excellence. Likewise, if you like this interview, make sure you hit subscribe and leave us a review and tell me what you thought of Jay.